Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
We earned it by winning the last 2 matches on the road, and that's not going to be taken away from us.
But what I love in hurling, I love players that will never give in.
He hits it. It's over the bar. Oh, holy Moses.
Hello and welcome to the RTÉ GAA Podcast. I'm Mikey, Stafford. This week, as always, I'm joined by Rory O'Neill, series producer of the Sunday Game. I've got Brendan Cummins, former Tipperary goalkeeper and Sunday Game analyst, and I'm delighted to be joined by Simon Donohoe, Wexford hurler and the captain of the first and thus far only 2020 county champions. We have Shelmaliers, who won the Wexford County final against Naveana on Sunday. How are you all doing, lads?
Good, Mikey. Very good.
I don't mind.
Good stuff. So back in June, Derek Kent, the Wexford chairman, was on the airwaves repeatedly defending a then seen as controversial plan to split the county championships. They were going to run the hurling off in 5 weeks, which they've just completed, with the football taking another 5 weeks during the 11-week club window that was allocated in the return to play plan of the GAA. So a couple of months is a long time in politics. A week's a long time in politics, we've learned this week, but a couple of months is a long time in GAA, and I think there's been a little bit of a reassessment of the plan in Wexford, which does seem to have worked quite well. A dual club has won only a second hurling title, and people might be looking at this as perhaps a model going forward when everything seems to be up for discussion in the world of GAA, calendars, intercounty and club. So Simon, first off, congratulations, 318 to 311 win over Naveana. Only your second title, your first in 6 years. Any less than sweet for the fact there weren't fans there?
No, I suppose when you win, it's always great to win a county title. I know kind of after you're expecting the crowd to come onto the pitch and to celebrate with family and supporters and all, so it was surreal in a way after about 3 or 4 minutes of celebrating with the players, and then you're kind of like, geez, there's no one here, what do we do now? Like, it's such, you're waiting, and I suppose you have the trophy presentation, but there's no big hullabaloo about it as such. But then when you're after winning, it's still nice.
It was a good game. It was live on TG Cahir, so we all got to enjoy it. There was great scenes on Wexford Bridge before the match, because obviously your fans couldn't get to the match, so they lined the road on the bridge going from your side of the bridge, Castle Bridge, over to Wexford Town. That was a great sight. But I guess I know a couple of your games were on TG Cahir, but the streaming service, which we're told took in 60 or 70 grand for Wexford County Board during the hurling championship, that was obviously vital because, you know, family, friends, Castlebridge, Curracloe, no one getting to these games, so streaming must have been vital, was it?
It was brilliant, I suppose, from the start. There were only like 200 in most clubs, and that's including the players and kind of stewards and whoever else to come in. So it's only about 100 tickets max left for supporters, which is not a whole lot when you've plenty of people in the parish who want to travel to it. But the streaming service has been brilliant. Even myself, if we weren't playing, I could have nearly 2 games going, watching matches, just because you've nothing else to do. I suppose you can't go out, you can't go to the pub, you can't do it. And so I think the streaming service was a great hit with Wexford GAA starting off, and it got people in the parish that couldn't go. They've seen everything, so even if you met them on the road during the week, they were still able to tell you the mistake you made in the first half.
Brendan, you're a former Tipperary footballer, so you're used to playing in front of no crowds. But I had to get that in there. I'm sure you watched the game. It was a good game, and to be honest with you, now I was watching it with the former Shelmaliers player. Clive used to play with Simon. He's a brother-in-law of mine, so I obviously had a bit of a crowd in the room with me. But I'm finding you very quickly lose, forget the fact that there's nobody at these matches, and you just get absorbed into the action, don't you?
Yeah, you do. There's no doubt about it, and it was a fantastic game. And I suppose I'm looking at it more so the side of what change in momentum can happen when you get to the first quarter, and at first the Shelmaliers, they were flying, and it seemed that when the break came in the quarter, it took the wind out of it a small bit for them, and to get going again was the hard part. But certainly when Aidan Cash made the block just to start the second half, I think it was James, his brother, stuck the goal up the other end. That was the nail in the coffin then, and they were out the gap. But yeah, I mean, you do get engrossed in the game. Hurling is such a thing. You see the soccer matches and they're all day playing it around the back, and you have time to look at the stand and go, there's no one here. This is, a stupid kind of thing. But in hurling, it's so dynamic and the ball is moving so quickly and anything can happen. Everyone gets totally engrossed. And Simon said the right thing. There's now no place to hide for the club hurler. There was a time when someone would say, a relation of theirs at the match would say, you wasn't too bad now, you know. But now they can see it in full HD that you were brutal, and they'll tell you, even though there's no mass to tell you when they meet you there, but they'll tell you somewhere. So it's been fantastic and an amazing thing for our club, I suppose, to get front and centre now and be broadcast like that. And I've watched a lot of the Watford actually hurling matches, and they've been fantastic as well. So it's great to get a blend of what's going on in other counties, and you get to see players who you'd only see during the summer playing their county jerseys, playing with the club, and it's been great now, I have to say.
Yeah, I'll come to you in a second on the momentum killer that is a water break, all right, Simon. But Rory, your take as a TV producer, the streaming services, you know, it's one camera most of the time, biased commentary a lot of the time, but people don't care, do they?
No, biased commentary, one camera. If there's a second camera there, even better again. Second camera obviously adds complications. You need a mixing desk then, and that adds further cost. This has been a revelation. For instance, we're out this weekend with the Mayo Senior Football Championship quarter-finals. And, you know, look, with all due respect, the people that work, for, we'll say, in RTÉ, national broadcaster, they're au fait knowledge with the intricacies of the club game in individual counties isn't going to be, you know, like as in depth as maybe local people would have the same level of knowledge. So a big thing is to try and sort of get a grasp of it, certainly before the matches begin. So I contacted the Mayo PRO, Paul Canan, just about that, and he was able to send me on 4 or 5 links to games between Briefy, between Ballintubber, Knockmore, all the teams, Ballahadreen, who are also featuring. This has been a revelation. The one thing that I would actually say, though, I think they just need to be mindful of, and this is something that will happen inevitably whenever you start recording anything, whether it's video, audio, whether it's print. Somebody needs to get a hold of archiving this stuff. You know, you'll never know what will happen down the years. Like what invariably will happen, county boards will get lazy. They won't, you know, like some county boards will be good, other county boards won't be as good. Is there somebody there maybe at a national level who needs to get on top of it? Because these are all records now. These are video records that in 100 years, who knows, people will be able to, like, Janie, look at the way Gaelic football was played back then in between Shelmaliers and Nevena, or hurling, for instance. So all of these things, okay, TV is fine, but if you're sticking a camera on stuff, archive it and record it, and let's look after it, because this now is starting to mushroom and develop, and it would be very important as an asset for the GAA at national level to just get a good handle on it from the very start.
Simon, you'd beaten Glenbarntown, who had in themselves beaten the reigning champions Martin. So you were reasonably well fancy going into this, I think, by a lot of people. And as Brendan said, the first quarter went well for you. Nevena were hitting quite a few wides. I think the wind looked like it was a very tricky one, which it often is in Wexford Park. It didn't seem to be coming from any one direction. It seemed to be coming from every direction. Everyone was missing in every which way side of the post. But you then there came the water break, and they came back at you. But there's been a lot of talk about the water breaks, and it's only a minute, but it does seem to have an influence, and it can often allow the team that have been under the cosh to come back into it, can't it?
Yeah, it's a big change. Kind of players were only used to, you'd have your halftime break, and now you have 4 quarters is probably the best way of looking at it. Kind of with that break, I suppose in the semi-final, Glen were kind of giving us a good bait in the first quarter, and the water break came at the right time, and we regrouped, and look where we are now, we're after winning. But same in the final, it came kind of, we were on top, water break came, we had a puck out, and they got a goal straight off it then, and it could have really changed the game. So you kind of have to prepare for water breaks now more than anything. It's kind of more of a mental thing. It's an extra thing you have to prepare for in the game, and it can either work for you or it can go again. It's kind of a double-edged coin. You can go for you. It went for us this year, and for other teams like Glen, it didn't go for them. They probably wanted just to go get to half time and hopefully have us killed out again.
Yeah.
One thing, Mikey, one thing that I've noticed with the water breaks, and I was actually at a game where this happened last week, and I saw Jerome Quinn posted a video of a game that I think might have took place in Antrim, possibly last night or the night before, whereby, see, the water breaks don't restart with a throw in. The water breaks are restarting with a kick out or a puck out. And A comes onto the field, Team B is a little bit slow coming on, but Team A, who was on the field early, is actually in charge of the ball with the kick out.
It was above an Antrim, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they kicked the ball out. The lads ran the ball up the other end of the field. The other team hadn't come onto the field, and they ran the ball up the other end of the field and kicked it into an empty net. And I witnessed exactly the same thing happen in a Dublin club match last week. This is a problem. Like, I think they just need to be careful here, about, because it could cause a situation. You know?
I think on that there was it's a minute break you're given, and I think a few teams, if you're getting best, the manager might take a few liberties and try to get a whole tactical plan in. So kind of, if you only have a minute, you kind of have to be ready to get back out on the pitch as well, I suppose.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Would Vinny say much? Would he have said much during the water breaks, or would it have been more the players kind of talking among themselves?
They'd be saying a little bit, but it's more just the players to get back in, kind of when things are going well, to keep it going, and if it's not, just have a few strong words with each other and just kind of get the water back on. Because I suppose you're not allowed to get the water during the first kind of quarter, so that's your only chance of getting it. So there's lads in there and they're trying to catch their breath, I suppose, so they're not probably taking on too much information.
Yeah, how do you find it as a coach, Brendan, the water break? Is it kind of frustrating that you've only got that minute, or do you manage to inject a little bit of information in it during it?
Well, thankfully that I'm still playing, I see it from the players' point of view, and it's actually suited us. We played, we're still in the intermediate hurling championship here, the quarter final the weekend.
Are you playing in goal, Brendan?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I am. So it's been great actually, because like I've seen both sides of it. We played Kappa White in the first round, and they were beating the living life out of us. We couldn't get to grips with what was going on. And then when we had that minute to come in, there is a togetherness, and when you're getting hockey and you're down 5, 6, 7 points, you feel a little isolated, you feel a little bit alone out in the pitch, you're wondering what's going on.
5 or 6 can become 10.
Yeah, and then it becomes 10, and everyone's going and everyone's giving out to each other. But when we all got into the huddle, like, there was a little bit of a reassurance that, look, I'm not on my own. And we said, right, we'll take the next 15 minutes. And that was our first experience out. We said, we'll win the next 15. And then the next 15. And you know what? We won the last 15 by 4 or 5 points with the wind. We ended up catching them out. Now, if that was a normal day, we'd have been bet. And the flip side is, of course, then we were winning a game then further on in it, and the break came at completely the wrong time. But I do think from a manager's point of view, you do probably have to have it set in your head, roughly what you want to say. You get your stats, you get all that stuff. But it's really, really powerful minute and a half or 2 minutes you have with your players for in between every 15 minutes. And I think it's a great thing, to be honest with you. It does break it up, obviously, for spectators, but from a manager's point of view, it's lovely to get that opportunity to touch base with the players.
At junior hurling level, it's just lovely to get a drink of water, I find. But sure, if there's some bit of information that could be imparted, all the better.
Don Logue mentioned Don Logue said from a goalkeeper's perspective, and you see Brendan might have experienced something similar. He said it can be quite an unusual situation, because he said sometimes the water break whistle goes and you start jogging over towards the sideline, and by the time you get there, he's whistling you to go back into goal, so.
Yeah, it's a little leg stretch.
Just to go back to the gym and get fitter and sprint out to the side like us. Older boys here.
So moving on here to the issue then of the Wexford Championship and the structure of it. Simon, I'd be interested, as a dual player from a dual club, what was your initial reaction to when you saw the fixture list, when you saw the plan?
I suppose first and foremost, we were delighted that we were going to have a championship. It kind of was the first thing, but when we seen it, it was kind of have to not that you're parking one club, but you just get a good run. Like usually, there's plenty of dual clubs in Wexford, and it's 2 weeks hurling, 2 weeks football, and you're always, say if you're going football, you have to do a bit of hurling during the football championship, just because it's so technical. But at least now we just had, was it 7 weeks we probably did of training in total of just pure hurling, and it probably paid dividends for us, because usually we're dropping the hurls then a couple of nights then to play football, and it probably is a way to go, whether they're able to structure it in a way, because you'll have football clubs then they'll say, well, we're missing out on a couple of weeks now, we're not doing anything, and then vice versa, the hurling clubs will stay the same. So there probably is merit in it, but how they'll organise it, I'm not kind of sure, but hopefully it will kick on from now.
Do you think it's kind of been seen as a success this year because this year is unique and there's a lot of goodwill, and as you say, we're all just happy to have a championship? You sound like maybe you'd be sceptical that it would work in a normal year when you have a whole summer to play with or a whole autumn. Yes, I suppose 2020 is a stranger. Even Messi wants to leave Barcelona, so anything is happening this year. But normally you Intercounty coming into it as well, and there's so much, like
play, like if a normal year people are trying to organise everything, just this year when people heard there was championship, they were delighted. They just wanted to play. Like there was people coming out of the woodwork trying to play. Even your brother Clive was back playing. Like so it just shows this is a strange year. You kind of need a normal year to really kind of measure it again. How it can be done properly, I suppose.
Yeah. Brendan, what do you think? Like we can get on to whether it would work in Tipp or not, which would be a whole other ball game. But Wexford and Waterford are kind of purer dual county, shall we say, with more dual clubs and more a little bit more equality between the codes than in some other dual counties, shall we say. Did you like the plan, or were you one of the people who thought it was?
Yeah, I have to say I really like the plan because hurling, it's not something you can leave down the hurl for a week and then go off again the next weekend and expect everything to be the same. I think if you have a pattern and players just want clarity, they just want to know what's happening. I think that's been through all of the feedback we've been getting. We know the fixture's on, we know what we're doing, the date is set, and we're going to play come hell or high water. And that clarity has been key. And certainly in counties where it's possible to do the split season, it is absolutely ideal, I think, to do it. I've seen it. There's no tug of war between football this week. We halfway through football trend, we drop it and pick up the hurleys, and there's mass confusion. Meanwhile, the team you're playing against is doing nothing, only hurling for the week. So it's very, very difficult. So at least it adds that bit of fairness. I think we probably talk about Tipp maybe later. It's a lot more difficult than Tipp with the volume of teams that we haven't seen in hurling and all that. So it makes it trickier. But certainly where possible, this is absolutely, I think, the ideal way to go. It gives clarity and fairness to every team participating in the championship.
Yeah, and Rory, Dublin isn't always considered, but it's probably you could say it's the biggest dual county in terms of participation levels. There's plenty of dual clubs. Ballybowden are successful at national level in both codes. They have players who played intercounty, like Conal Keeney is a great example. He's an intercounty footballer, intercounty hurler. Do you think it could work? Dublin have gone the week on, week off mode. Do you think this split could work?
I don't think so. I think the problem for Dublin would be there'd be a few issues. I think for a start, while it's a massive dual county. Like I've spent half my life in Cork, which would be a very dual county, and then the next half in Dublin. So you can kind of get a good appreciation for the importance of dual players and dual clubs. Like I think the first issue that Dublin would face would be, well, what are the lads that only play one? So if there's a lad that only plays hurling or only plays football, what's he going to do while the football championship is on or hurling championship is on? That's the first issue. The second issue is you like there's so many games to get through in Dublin that they almost have to run it on a kind of a consecutive. No, it seems to work in fairness up here where it's week on, week off. It's hurling football. And that most people seem genuinely happy, they're contented with that situation. But another thing, and I'd be very interested in Simon's view on this. So Simon's team now are going into the football championship, taking on teams that have probably been knocked out of the hurling championship maybe up to a month to 6 weeks ago. So some of those teams that now he's going to be competing against have been prepping and planning football for 6 weeks, whereas ye only won the Wexford Championship last Sunday. So you might be, maybe I'm wrong, but would you feel that maybe you're at a distinct disadvantage now going into the football championship, given that your competitors might have had a bit of a stall in the march on, we'll say, in terms of the planning, the preparation and training?
Yeah, well, we are a bit behind the curve, I suppose, after we've been hurling. Last night was our first football training. I was only getting back to kicking a football around and just getting used to the movement of the game itself. But I suppose we're going to have to rely on a bit of confidence after winning the hurling, and just I think from last Sunday we'll have 13 lads will probably line out again this Saturday evening in Wexford Park. So it's the same group of lads. So I suppose we'll have to just pull together and keep everything simple, because we're not going to be the most skillful and have the most tactics compared to Castletown, who are just a football club as such. So we'll just have to keep it simple and hopefully just ride our luck as well in times and just try get results is the main thing.
Yeah, I'm interested in this first training session. Who's your manager, and how easy did he take it on you, considering A, you just won a county title, and B, he probably assumed none of you had kicked a football in about 6 weeks. So was it a very basic training session, or did he take it to the other end of the spectrum and punish you?
There wasn't much tactics for us. Lads are probably not 100% tuned in, but John Hegarty is our manager for the year. He's after playing for Wexford for plenty of years, so he kind of knows the story, and we kind of started off with a few tackling drills just to kind of get the kind of the sweating going on lads and kind of get a run around into them. But then it was just simple kicking and hand pass and just get back to getting used to kicking a football from playing hurling. Kind of it's a totally different game, the way the ball moves and the speed of the game. So it's just more so just getting used to the fundamentals of football again is all it was last night.
That's interesting, and it's sorry, Mikey. Just that's very interesting as well, because I suppose, and Brendan would probably, maybe Brendan, you probably would know this better than anybody. Is there a different type of fitness required for football versus hurling?
I would say, yeah, there is. It's more the speed that when you're hitting the ball in football, it's easily more strategic. You have that little bit extra time on the ball. It's the tactical, there's plays, you know what I mean? You can control a little bit better. Whereas in hurling, a lot of it is instinct because you only have a split second to go. And that's why I think Simon's team all through the championship, they gathered momentum because got more and more and more used to playing, used to winning, obviously, to getting deeper into the championship. And it gets you that confidence and all going. But I think people who don't have players who don't have a hurling in their hand for every day of the week are certainly at a big disadvantage to those who wouldn't have a football. Whereas the flip side, like Simon said, you go back kicking a ball, like determination, and obviously they're going to be a seriously good football team as well. Will get you a long ways. Whereas in hurling, the skill element is so high, you really need to be focused on it day in, day out to get to the level like Shelmaliers did to win a county championship.
Yeah. Simon, there was one of the things that was thrown at Wexford and Derry Kent back in June was that this plan was drawn up in Davy Fitz's house. This is all to suit the Wexford hurlers. Get the hurlers, get that out of the way nice and early.
A lot of slack, though, he does.
Yeah, he does. He's a lightning rod. The flip side of this is that there's a good chance that, like, if you didn't pick up if you didn't kick a football for 6 weeks, like, there's a good chance several members of his hurling panel won't do a whole lot of hurling for the next 6 weeks. Isn't that right?
Yeah, well, sure, we're not back training. It's just the 14th of September. We're not allowed back till, so we won't be back till then. And if the hurling was over now and there was no championship, sure, lads, what will they be doing? You kind of championship fitness is match game fitness is everything, and most of the lads in with kind of the senior hurling panel will still be playing football. I know a lot of lads, some are out Friday, some are out Saturday, and others are out Sunday. And it's keeping fit alone. You can do your ball work against the wall, or you can go off the pitch and maybe do a bit of striking, but you need match fitness, whether it's hurling or football. It'll keep lads ticking over till we're allowed back training. Yeah,
would Davey be kind of cognizant of that? Would he be aware of that and be kind, because there's no collective training, we know that. We had Michael Darragh-McCauley saying unless we've got underground layers in Dublin, I can tell you that Dublin we're not training. I think we're all assuming now that there's obviously no collective training. People have taken it seriously, the edict from Croke Park. But you're in contact with Davey, and you can have individual plans and stuff. So he's aware that a significant number of his panel will be playing football for the next month or more. So is that it? Is he just saying if you can get out to the ball wall, have a puck around between two of you, whatever you can do in a spare moment, is that kind of how you'll keep ticking over?
Yeah, well, I suppose before the championship started, Dave kind of talking to everyone and just said, now you're fresh going into club championship. A lot, it probably hasn't happened before where county lads are fresh going. He said, give it a rattle, see what you can do. And he hasn't touched base with us since. He just said, lads, go ahead. I'll be watching the games. I'll see how he's playing. I'll watch him form. And I'll touch base with you then whenever we're allowed to get back. So we haven't heard anything from him yet. But what he did say as well, when he's done with the hurling, don't let the football go, because there's a lot of lads from dual clubs and you can't be disrespecting the football people in your club either. You're going to be one of the fitter lads, so you have to use your assets as well to try to help on your football club as well.
Yeah, there you go, Brendan. Shock horror, the big evil Davy Fitzgerald has not actually put the kibosh on football in the county of Wexford. Are you shocked and horrified to hear that?
No, not at all. I know Davy. I know the narrative straight away as we talk about Davy as the manager here. Obviously, we Simon on with us, but the reason he's brought so much success to every county that he's gone to is that he understands what the player needs to perform, and it's a sign of the man to say, look, if you're a competitive animal in you, suppose the game of tiddlywinks, you're doing everything you can to win it. And if that's football or hurling, like I said, or whatever sport you're in, he wants a competitive player. And he'll be watching those guys playing the football and making sure that they're giving everything they can, because that's essentially what he wants as a player. And I know Liam Sheedy and Tipp will be the same, Kyle will be the same. Every single manager will be the exact same. They understand where their players are at. They don't want to confuse them in any way by saying, we're going to train Intercounty now, and turn their heads to the club. Because the reality is, further down the road, you'll only cause yourself the world of pain. everybody, to be fair, has respected the rules at intercounty level. And they also know if you're dealing with an elite athlete, Mikey, like, he is going to mind himself. I know, sure, Simon will be outside hitting the ball off the wall and when he's not football training, just to make sure that when I'm in with Wexford or Tipperary or Limerick, wherever you are, I'm not going to be in a position where I could lose my place because I didn't get my touch right. And that's why they're intercounty elite players.
Yeah. Rory, you've obviously been watching a lot of club around the country, probably specifically looking at Dublin at times as well as where you're living. The other side of this is the likes of Davy Fitz, Desi Farrell. They're getting to see an awful lot of footballers that maybe wouldn't have been considered in the past, or hurlers that wouldn't be considered in the past. And, you know, the plus side of this is that there's county trials going on a national level at the moment, isn't there?
Absolutely, 100%. I was only reading in the Irish Examiner or the Echo last night where Shawnee McGrath and Mark Landers were referencing how Cork brought in a new championship this year for the very first time in COVID year, which was the group stages and round robin. So basically, you were getting 3 championship matches minimum. Into the last weekend, this weekend, and everything is on the line. And the county champions of the last 3 years have been knocked out in O'Killy divisional team. So it's all to play for. And Landers and Shawnee McGrath both making very, very strong points in last night's Echo, I think, whereby they're both saying like it's been huge for some of the younger lads, the likes of Luke Horgan and a few lads from SARS, a couple lads from Douglas, to get this kind of level of experience, these many games under their belt in this sort of an environment whereby they're playing with all the intercounty players as well, who are still kind of peppered across it, because Cork would have quite a few where the UCC and etc. And he says it's been huge for their development, huge to bring them on. A lot of lads who would have experienced, we'll say, reasonable levels of success at minor and under 20 over the last couple of years, getting to All-Ireland finals, beat by Tipp twice. That these guys have now really got a good taste of adult hurling because of this year's championships. And I think it's going to benefit intercounty across the board.
Yeah. So Simon, your GPA member, I assume, they put a plan to the GAA, which I think is the plan the GAA were pretty much going to come up with themselves, on splitting the season February to July for intercounty and August to whenever is needed for club championship. As we've just been discussing, you're a dual player at a dual club in a dual county. I presume this sounds like a good plan to you, does it?
It does. It does. In fairness, I suppose kind of they had to probably do something with it. Probably from seeing a few, from just listening to club players, they kind of felt they were kind of left behind. But I suppose organising the all, I know it's easy to say from February to June or whatever they're wanting to do, but there's a lot how they'll condense it all in, and then at the back end of the year, is there going to be a complete close period? There's a lot of stuff to kind of to be used in it, and then when teams win their county championship, they'll go on to the club championship, and how far will that go ahead? So there probably is a few more moving parts in it that probably have to be defined, but I can't see no reason why it shouldn't work. I suppose it's because everyone wants to play. Like, if you're lucky enough to play county, you want to play it. If you're picked to play, you want to do it. There's no point saying otherwise. So they have to separate and make sure both of them are run to the best of their abilities. I think myself.
Yeah, and obviously, like last weekend proved it, because this point's been made repeatedly. Intercounty players, the 2% as they're being called by some, they are club players, and there's nobody could deny what it meant to you or to county footballers like Glenn Malone to win a county title with your club, and how committed you are now again to continue with your club in another code. So, snatching at games a week here, a week there, borrowing training time from intercounty, that's a strain on you as much as it is a strain on your club, or, so having it kind of a bit neater, a bit tidier, and you being able to plan your life surely must be a good thing. Oh
yeah, exactly. For the year, kind of, as you get older, you have family and all as well, and you don't want to miss out on things in life, so you have clarity what you can do and when you can do it. And then you start with the club and you finish with the club, so you don't want to be seen just to be an intercounty player and let your club down. You want to give something back to the club, because there's always people coming through, and you want to be able to give back to the club. Like this year, we're after winning this. This means as much to me as winning anything else as well.
Could I ask you, Simon? I mean, how disappointing is it that you're not actually going to get on to contest the provincial championships and in All Ireland? Like, given the fact that, like, in fairness, you haven't won Wexford that often. Is that a big frustration for you?
It is disappointing. I suppose it'd be lovely to go play again another county champion in Leinster and see how we get on, just test ourselves. But I suppose the year that's in it, I can't be too greedy. I'll just take the championship and
have your medal.
Try again next year.
Yeah, because you are kind of the the 2014 would have been the classic case. I always say it may be unfair as man who's ever going to win a county title, but you can nearly always write off a first-time winner because winning a county means everything. You can call the provincial and the All-Ireland the toughest and all this, but my God, I wouldn't say back in 2014 you guys were thinking too much about the first round of the Leinster Hurling Championship.
No, we won it. I think it was the Sunday, and we were playing Kilcommon the following Saturday in Wexford Park, and I'm not sure, there was a couple of days had so when you win the first one, you're not thinking of the following weekend, and lo and behold, we only lost to Kilcommon by a point after extra time the following week, and they got to the Leinster final. So we were close then, but you have to enjoy the first one.
I absolutely do. So Brendan, you could say Simon and Shelmaliers and Wexford are almost the poster children for this new split season, and even splitting the code so that we can have it run off neat and tidy. Now you go and piss all over our plans there and tell us how difficult it would be in a county like Tipperary.
I will just start with Rory said about the round robin system in Cork. They've adopted what's been going on here in Tipp, where you have 3 groups of 16 split into 4 for the round robin. So straight away that's 48 senior hurling teams, and that's going for in towns. The football is split into 4 groups, so there's 16 in that. So every second weekend for all the world, we've been going football and hurling. And the positive is, I suppose, that there's a flow of games and we're getting through it. But the problem with getting through it is, and we had it in our own club here, we played a dead rubber game in the hurling where we had won our first 2 matches, played Shannon Rovers. We don't have to let 7 or 8 fellas off the team. The footballers had a crunch game last weekend. RTÉ Radio were down at it. They played a lot more. And because we had to play the majority of the players again for the 6th weekend in a row, when they came out for the 7th week or the 5th weekend in a row, when they came out for the 7th weekend in a row against Lockmore, they got absolutely wiped and were dead in their feet. 2 fellas injured. So the constant game every week, football and hurling, it looks right good, but when you're in the middle of it, it just feels, it's very, very tiring. We had the complaint before for Intercounty players playing 3 weekends in a row was a disaster, or 4, So club players are now in that situation in Tipp. And like I say, it is good to have it run off, but there is a toll on the bodies then behind it all. So I think if we are splitting the season, I would prefer to have the club first and the county second, would be my view. And it would allow Intercounty managers to look at the club player and see what they're up to, and then bring them into Intercounty panel for the second half of the year. That's the only sort of tweak that I'd make in the proposals, because it's very good to have it split club and county, and maybe COVID might have given us something outside the box thinking. So well done to all on that. But I'd have the club first and Intercounty second.
What do you think of that, both of you? Rory, what would you think of putting club first?
Again, the only thing I would say about going club first, you'd probably have to begin the championships to my mind, the 2 down months nowadays should be January and February. I think you should play nearly much right into December. I mean, I played a 5-a-side soccer tournament last December. It was 22 degrees. It was 2 days before Christmas. Like the 2 worst months of the year. The 2 worst months of the year now are categorically January and February. They should be the down months, and the season really should begin kind of around the 1st of March, heading towards Paddy's, and then you split your if that's 10 months, and then if it's 5 and 5, or even if it's 6 and 4, whatever your split up may be. The one issue that you might have with going with club first is that you're probably still on a lot of ropey pitch surfaces. You might need to do a pre-season through the winter. And I think, I don't know how inter-county players might feel about it. Like, they then would probably feel like they're the ones on the hook all year long. They'll be expected to go hammer and tongs for their clubs to start with, and then really pick things up when the inter-county game starts. Whereas if you swap it around the other way from the inter-county point of view, and certainly from the GPA, they'll be thinking along these lines. Like, so if, let's say, Dublin win the All-Ireland, there's 5 or 6 lads who will be playing with club sides who probably wouldn't come within an ass's roar of a Dublin Senior Football Championship, so they can kind of take it handy. I'm not saying that they go out purpose to lose games, but I think like a lot of inter-county players, once they transfer up to that inter-county scene, inter-county really becomes their club by and large, and they're almost loaned back to the club. Now, maybe this will reverse the balance in that way. I don't know. I think there's definitely merit in what Brendan is saying, but I think it's tricky. I mean, I think even splitting the seasons will be tricky, and I think you're probably only going to really know the major pros and cons when you put it into practice, because then all of the little pressure points will start to come to the surface.
Yeah. What do you think, Simon? I know you have kind of doubts about how it could work, but do you think the proposal with county first and club second is the way to go, or would you be with Brendan and maybe try and flip it?
Yeah, it's kind of, it doesn't matter. I suppose the weather thing will be the biggest thing. I know we've played a few inter-county games where the league kind of starts in February in Wexford Park and been called off because the weather is so rough.
Yeah,
February's
a disaster.
If club games trying to start that time of year, like it'll be tough going for club players rather than that of all age. Like if you're down to the first and second teams, but they could go to club first if the players are getting ready. As you said, their county managers are getting a look at their players. Lads are getting up to championship speed. I know it's not inter-county championship speed, but you are getting going. So there is a merit in that too. Kind of there's pros and cons to both sides, and I suppose unless you do them, as you said, Rory, you don't know.
You don't know. And one thing, and to go back to Brendan's point, like, I mean, I think, and hopefully fingers crossed that this happens, that we do get an intercounty championship, and I think we will. But like, Christmas All Irelands could become a really big thing at the intercounty level. I mean, like this could be, and if you have to bear in mind as well, the intercounty season won't be as enslaved to bad pitches, because invariably all the intercounty games played on top quality county grounds, whereas the club probably would need the harder surfaces and the better months, because invariably they might not be playing on as good a pitches. But I think that could be like, and again, we'll only probably really get to see it this year without supporters there, admittedly, but we will get a good sense of what a Christmas All Ireland and a sort of a winter intercounty championship is going to be like. And who knows, it might be something that piques everybody's interest, be the way forward.
What's your sense?
Just quickly, like, I'm just thinking there, the conversation, thank God, has moved on from club month in April. We're now splitting hairs.
That April thing.
And in fairness, the GAA gave it a go, and it doesn't work. So at least the conversation's moved on now to what's going to happen new, and that's a great thing. Just while we're all talking about there and debating, I said, thank God we're not about April anymore.
Simon, you've been in a hurling bubble. You're now going into football bubble. You've been the first captain of a county champion who didn't get to celebrate with his fans. First of all, what are your thoughts on an inter-county season without fans, which as a Wexford fan I would obviously feel we'd be slightly more hobbled by that than some counties, given the support we bring to Croke Park.
Back when there's an old inter-county game, or if Wexford are doing well. I suppose just from playing the club games, I suppose when you get into a game, you kind of, not that you switch off, but you're so engrossed in the game, you can kind of go a large parts of the game without knowing there's a crowd there. So unless there's a goal or there's something major happening, then the hair stand back your neck, then all right. But I suppose everyone wants to see games, only for just people looking at you, want something to talk about. I suppose when there was no games going on there and kind of in the early part of the summer, people had not really much to talk about. So at least now we're here doing a podcast, we're talking about last weekend's sport after going ahead. So people will want something coming up to Christmas, whether there's people at the match, a few hundred, wherever they can fit into a certain percentage of capacity, or it's just behind closed doors. At least it'll be on the telly. People can talk about it, people can watch it, and there's something for people just to buy into coming up to Christmas.
Brendan, we all seem to be up and down about the actual prospects of it happening. Last week we might have said it was looking very bad. Maybe this week again we're all feeling a bit more confident. But it seemed we all seem to be up and down like yo-yos. Are you confident at the moment we will have inter-county championships?
Yeah, I think it'll go ahead all right. It will be behind closed doors, and that's fine. And obviously with the RTÉ's televising the matches and all, there'll be more cameras there. It'll be brought to life that an awful lot more even, It will be eerie for the players. I think that's a big thing. At the start of all this, we did a podcast. I said, it'll be all right, but playing a few matches now at the club, and I know Bally's playing match, there might be a man and his dog anyway at it, but if you're an inter-county player and you're in Croke Park and the stands are empty, it's an eerie enough kind of a spot now, to be honest. I played in a couple of our Ireland quarter-finals up there. There might only be 25,000 at it. There might be no one there based on the size of the stadium. And you can hear the belt of the ball. You can hear people calling for it. But players will get used to it, And at the same time, when it's all over, you go up the steps, you collect the Liam McCarthy, and it goes in the record books of the Sam Maguire to say you won it this year. And that's that. I think the big change will be that if there's a lockdown like Laois or Kildare, they will probably have to forfeit their position in the championship, which will be harsh. But I think they're the rules of engagement for the COVID Championship, we'll call it. And that's the only thing I'd say would probably stop from a team's participation. But please God, it'll go ahead. I'm praying that it'll happen.
I think it will. I think it will go ahead. I think what's probably going to happen, this is only a guess, sort of, you know, again, like, I mean, this is a fool's errand here, because, you know, who could predict the future, the way things are going on a day-to-day basis by this. But I think what might happen is they will finish out the current club program, hurling and football, and I'm going to guess as soon as the current club program championship is completed, the GAA clubs will be all put into dormancy until 2021 at the very, very earliest, and then the Intercounty will be the only activity ongoing. And I think if it's the only thing that the GAA have to concern themselves with, I think there's a good chance that this championship, the Intercounty Championship, will be staged and should be staged successfully. And that, fingers crossed on that, because I think John Horan mentioned it. I think John Kiley said it on 6-1 News with a piece with Marty. I think Davey said it on our program last week in the Clare Championship. The nation is going to need it.
It's going to be an interesting Halloween for you then, isn't it, Simon? 31st of October or 1st of November, playing Galway, probably in a empty Croke Park.
Yeah, it'll be strange. Jesus, usually when we're playing Galway, there's plenty of shouting and kind of the intensity is through the roof. But as long as we can play games, I don't mind. If it was in a field over the road here, we're playing Galway Championship, I wouldn't mind. You just want to play a championship. It's still, there's prizes to be won. There's a Leinster Championship to be done, or an All Ireland. Please God, we can push on. But we just want to play games. We want to give something for people to look at, support. That's the main thing.
All right. On that positive note, I think we'll leave it, lads. So just as always, just a reminder, plenty of GAA news, match reports and features on the RTÉ website and the Newsmail app. Saturday and Sunday sport will be around the grounds. As we said, it's a pivotal weekend in a few counties. 2 county finals, Carlow and Waterford hurling.
Waterford, yeah.
And Rory, you're down in Mayo.
We're in Castlebar, Mayo quarter-final doubleheader, Ballahaddereen versus Knockmore. Is it? It's, hang on, I should know this now, shouldn't I? It's Ballintubber versus Knockmore and Ballahaddereen versus Briefy. So you've Andy Moore and the O'Shea's. You know, you have a whole host of stars on show. Mayo Club football, very, very, very strong, very good standard. So we're on the air 5:10. We've got Cora Staunton and Stephen Rochford on the panel, and Kevin McStay is on co-com duty below there for a double header, 5:10, 5:30, 7 throwing. Looking forward to it.
He got there in the end. He nearly stumbled, but he got there. He has all the information to hand. Just to say thank you very much to Brendan and to Simon, and to wish Simon good luck this weekend. Don't bring a hurl. Don't wear a helmet. It's not allowed, Simon.
Best luck.
And hopefully you give him a good rattle. And we will talk to you all again next week. Thank you very much.
Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
We earned it by winning the last 2 matches on the road, and that's not going to be taken away from us.
But what I love in hurling, I love players that will never give in.
He hits it. It's over the bar.